Welcome to Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio coverage of 16NTC, the Nonprofit Technology Conference in San Jose, California. This is also part of NTC Conversations. My guests now are Steve Heye, Erin Dieterich, and Princessa Bourelly. Let's meet them. Their seminar topic is leveraging expert or technical volunteers. Steve is solution consultant for NetSuite, and next to him is Erin Dieterich, Director of Corporate Citizenship, and Princessa Bourelly, Director of Finance at Juma Ventures. Steve, Erin, Princessa, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Welcome to Nonprofit Radio. Just indulge me for a moment while I highlight our swag item for this interview, which is from Black Mesh. Everything is in black. There's a very high gloss notebook with a calendar at the end. And we have a USB drive, flash drive, and a pen, your basic pen. And this goes into our swag pile for the day, which is right here.
Awesome.
There it is.
Good swag pile.
Thud for the people or for our listeners who just have audio. Okay. There's a difference. Let's see, Steve. You explained it off mic. Let's have you explain it now. There's a difference between using experts who are technical and non-technical. So help us with an overview of this.
Sure. So the way we first started, talking about this was, we all have volunteers. We all understand how to work with them when we all have ideas of how to best use them. But there is a very fundamental difference between using somebody that just wants to come in for a single day and do a single task versus somebody that has a very big skill set and or is an expert. So, with pro bono, the key is they're coming in and they do legal work for their living, or they do finance work for their living, and or technology for their living, and then they want to do that for you, but do it for free. So that kind of a volunteer requires a very different relationship with them because you're allowing them to do work that will have dramatic impact on your organization and is much more critical that you understand what they're going to be doing, how you're going to use them, and build a relationship with them.
All right. Erin, is it essential that these technical volunteers be supervised by other people who are technically inclined or who are technicians?
So I would say it's very important that they're supervised. The level of technology knowledge that the person who supervises has will differ at different organizations. And I think the most important thing is just that whoever's managing the nonprofit project and whoever's the lead volunteer, that they're on the same page about what the project's going to be. So as long as they can speak the same language, then that's probably the right skill level. But if you have a volunteer who's very, very skilled and is speaking a language that you just don't understand as they describe a project, that project's probably not going to go well until you find somebody on your side who can speak the same language and understand what you're getting involved in.
Okay, so at least that level of understanding. Yeah, okay. Now, Princessa, you're using technical volunteers at Juma Ventures?
We are currently using the pro bono through NetSuite. This is a multi-year, and the project has gone really well. And it is have been a great experience and an opportunity for Juma as well as the NetSuite pro bono to come in and offer their experience.
And in what capacity are you using technical volunteers?
So they are helping us now set up our dashboards within the NetSuite system to take an Excel spreadsheet and be able to pull that same information out of NetSuite without having to pull all of these different areas together. So it's going to be easier for us to manage and maintain. So we use their technology expertise to actually do the setup and manage the dashboards as well. So.
Okay. And do you have some lessons learned to share? Not necessarily right now because we have another 20 minutes together, but you have some lessons learned about using technical volunteers?
The biggest lesson that I share today would be for us to be prepared on the nonprofit side.
Okay, a little better preparation sounds
Yes.
like. All right, we'll get there. We'll get a chance to talk about that. And okay, you have some advice on finding technical volunteers. Erin, you want to start with that? Start off there?
Sure. One of the things that we shared today in our session was that it's important to look at who as a nonprofit you're already connected to. So you look at who is already, from the corporate side making donations, who perhaps is already a partner, and look at what their core competencies are as an organization and see if there's an alignment between their core competencies and what you need help with. If there is, it might be a very easy next step to go back to them and say, hey, we love working with you. Here's something that we're really struggling with. Do you think that this is something your team would want to look at pro bono, and start the relationship that way? In addition to looking at your corporate kind of connections, there are a lot of really awesome sites out there that can help you find an individual technical volunteer. So we shared a list of resources today, but among them is the Taproot Foundation, Catch a Fire, the Community Corps,
Volunteer Match,
LinkedIn, lots of
Community Corps
places.
from NPower. There's a bunch.
Community Corps for Manpower.
NPower.
Yep.
NPower.
Yep.
Okay.
Where you could go on there and essentially say, we've scoped out this challenge that our organization is having. Perhaps we need a new website. And you can go and find volunteers who are taking their personal time after their job to do that project for you.
Okay. I've had the Catch a Fire CEO on, Rachel Chong.
Yeah,
It's
she's great.
been a couple of years, but yes, very true. Okay. Is a screening is going to be important? Is it okay to? So we talked a little about finding.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got a prospect pool of whether it's from real-time relationships and partnerships or some we found online. Screening. We interview them, right? I mean, I would think same way you're interviewing a hire, Steve.
Yeah, so there's a couple, it varies a little bit. First, the amount of screening, the amount of effort that you're going to put into the screening process depends on what the type of project that they're going to be working on. So if based on the level of impact that the project is going to have and the risk that's involved in this project, you're going to want a varying level of screening. So if it's a project where they are, like as Princessa talked about, they're going to be in your financial system. They're going to be looking at helping you adjust or if it's a legal pro bono where they're reviewing contracts or they're doing that, you're going to want to do a lot more screening.
You can say hell of a lot.
Yeah, a heck of a lot.
It's all proprietary information. Proprietary and potentially damaging.
Yeah, so you want to make sure
if it's in the wrong hands.
Right. So with some of those, a non-disclosure agreement might be in place, or an actual application. Ask them who they've worked with before. Do some background checks if it's needed. But if it's a vendor that you already have a long-term relationship, you're a customer with them, and maybe then the barriers drop a little bit because you've already had a longer relationship with that company, and because you're paying them and they have already a set up established program. It's a little bit different on the type of screening you would do. Or if you're just having somebody build a little widget on your website that isn't like mission critical, then your screening might be a little lower because it's not like mission critical and it's not going to blow up the whole world if in your world, your mission world.
And there isn't proprietary data involved.
Right.
But still, I mean, they're going into you still have to ensure that they have a certain level of technical expertise because they are going into the back end of your system, your coding. And
so
it could mess things up.
Right, asking for examples of work they've done before, or who they've worked with, or even asking for their resume or having them fill out a sample application. There's a number of things you can do just to get some simple information about them.
Okay.
To screen them.
Princessa, any advice, lessons learned on screening volunteers?
So going through NetSuite, we didn't have to do the screening. We applied. The hardest part is narrowing down from this, these grand scheme of ideas that we need internally, narrowing that down for the NetSuite team to then match us to pros that could come in and have the availability to sort of target our project.
Okay, so you potentially could have used more volunteers. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
To do other work for you?
Yes. The beauty of NetSuite is that they offer it multiple times per year. So even though we didn't get to address all of the projects, there is a possibility that we could get to it.
Okay. Erin and Steve are both nodding, so I guess you have a shot at this. Okay. All right, so instead of talking around this, we may as well say, let's just have, Erin, why don't you describe the NetSuite technical volunteer program, how this works?
Sure. So at NetSuite, we donate our software platform to nonprofits and social enterprises. And once they start using that platform, they are eligible to apply for pro bono support from our global employee workforce every quarter. So at the beginning of each quarter, an application goes out to the nonprofits. They say, here are the things I need help with. And then internally at the company, we send out an email to all of our employees and say, hey, here are the things that nonprofits need help with on the platform. We need your technical skills. If you want to get involved, to let us know. And then our team actually does the matchmaking. So we're the screeners in that instance. We look at all the employees' backgrounds. We look at where they work, what time zone they're on, what their expertise is, and we put together typically teams of 2 to 4 employees who we think have the right skills to get that project done that's been requested.
Okay. How many people on your team, Princessa?
There are four.
You got the max. You got the max.
We
okay.
did. We did.
Okay. Now, does NetSuite have a pro bono requirement? Part of employment is you'll spend weeks or 10% of your time or something. Is there anything like that? Or?
So it's not a requirement,
No.
but
Okay.
all of our employees are allowed to spend 20 hours a quarter on a project pro bono when they get matched up. So they could, work it out with their manager that they apply and take on a project every single quarter of the year.
Yeah.
But it's not a requirement.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So after screening, let's see. Where should we go on starting to manage? We've
Scoping.
Scoping is next.
Well, all right. Now on Tony Martignetti Nonprofit Radio, I have jargon jail. Now, if this was a discussion on hiking in the Adirondacks, scoping, would probably be a pretty simple thing to understand.
Yeah.
But in this conversation, I don't know what scoping is. So get yourself out of jail. What is scoping?
So I think the key to a big differentiator between using an expert or technical volunteer is they will need something that tells them exactly the challenge you're having, what you're hoping to solve, and how you want them to help.
Okay. Scope of the project.
So it's a scope of the
Scoping.
project,
Okay.
meaning that you're going to just both sit down with a document and agree on what is the challenge we're trying to solve, what are the goals of the project, and then talk through that together to figure out what the actual outcome will be. So it usually starts way too big, and then you scale down into something that's actually accomplishable, because that's one of the challenges we have with expert
Because
volunteers.
these employees only have up to 20 hours per quarter.
Right, and that's
So-
almost all pro bono help that you get will have some sort of a
Limitation.
limitation to how much help you'll get and how long the project can last. So
Okay.
the real key to using a technical volunteer is having a chunk of work that's containable, it's describable, attainable, and is something that you can easily pass to someone and have them understand. Yeah.
Princessa, was this hard to define the scope?
It was hard to narrow down internally.
Especially given, you said there were other things you could have
Yes.
done, and maybe this project was even bigger than it could reasonably be.
I think I shot for the moon,
Okay.
and they had to bring me back down.
Yeah. All right.
So I basically put out our primary concerns. They chose a project that they could actually accomplish within the 20 hours. And so the difficult part is on my end, making sure that I'm providing them with the proper information to make the project successful.
Okay. Yeah, you clearly have responsibilities
Yes.
as well as they do.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So scoping. Yes, of course. What do we want to see at the end of this? Whether again, this applies beyond the NetSuite program, but you got to have a scope document.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and it's helpful on both sides, not just for the nonprofit, but also for the the pro bono person, because the pro bono person then knows what's expected of them, and it then is more able to know if their skills is the right skills and if they're able to actually achieve it, or to start to understand if it's even possible within the amount of time that they're given to do it.
Okay. And that they have to donate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. What comes? All right. So now, savory snacks are being served,
Ooh.
and the announcement is being made. That is not God. This is not an omnipotent. It's just somebody who knows that the savory snacks are being served. That's
Awesome.
That's the extent of his omnipotence. Is that there are chocolate snacks, including big urns of chocolate milk here that I see. Which I don't know about the rest of you, but I kind of like chocolate milk now and then.
But it was weird to see a milk in an urn. You don't
Yeah.
see that very
No,
often.
It's clear,
No,
right? It's
yeah.
a clear urn
Yeah.
with a silver
Seems
top.
quite odd.
It looks like a 3 or 4 gallon urn. It looks like to me.
Yeah.
And with a spigot on it. Okay. Okay. After scoping, working with our technical volunteers, Erin, what comes next? What do we need to
So
think
then
about?
you really get into the meat and potatoes of getting the project done.
Yeah.
And something that's important to think about there is project management, because sometimes you'll get a really excited set of volunteers, and if there's not somebody who's responsible for keeping the project on track, as with any project you'd work on, pro bono or not, it can go kind of off the rails, or it can get delayed, or people can kind of wander away, and it doesn't get accomplished on the time that you really had set aside for it. So focusing, having that timeline, having a project manager who's going to lead everybody through the process is really critical.
But now we are working with volunteers.
We
So
are.
where do you draw the line between, team, you're too slow, and okay, team, I understand, we understand, we'll extend the timeline. You are volunteers, and we don't want to lose you because we're 25% of the way into this now.
Right.
How do we manage that?
Well, it's a collaboration. So I think that's one of the most important things about using technical volunteers, is that it's not like you're saying, I want this project done, go do it, and let me know when it's done. It's that you are saying, I'm going to work with you, and we're going to get this project done together. So if it starts getting delayed because of your timeline or their timeline, you're kind of in that together, and you can readjust expectations, versus if you just kind of set it and forget it, then you have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. But if it's a true collaboration, then you're both coming to the table, you're both taking on work in order to get this delivered, and the project's going to be something that really resonates with your organization and that you can continue using for a long time if you were part of the process, versus if a nonprofit volunteer just came in, did something, said, here you go, and then left. You might not know how to use that thing in the future.
Okay. I don't know, Princessa. I don't want to put you on the spot and say the NetSuite volunteers, volunteer employees were, they're over budget, they're behind time. It's working. I mean, you want to get more out of this. So I don't know. Anything you want to add to this?
So
this
actually,
part of the project
i-
management.
Internally, we had to make sure that we were prepared for our meetings.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
as,
So you have periodic meetings face to face, or
One-
Skype or whatever.
virtual.
Virtual. Yeah.
Once a
All right.
week. And prior to that meeting, on the nonprofit side, we had to be prepared in order to get the best benefit from the professionals and to get their insight and their feedback.
Okay. What do you want to say about preparation? I mean, you got to get the right people collaborating internally.
So internally, we have a great team, working with the accounting team, and then also communicating that information to the leadership team for their feedback, and then circling back to NetSuite just to make sure that they know that things are working, that we're, also to make sure that we're on track, and to make sure that we're pretty much on track to complete the project.
Okay. I should have asked you earlier. What does Juma Ventures work?
So Juma Ventures works to they're fighting the poverty the poverty cycle by providing education and financial literacy to youth, and they employ the youth at the ballpark venues around the area.
And what's your area? Where are you?
We are we're here in San Jose, we're in San Francisco, we're in New Orleans, we have New York venue.
Oh, my. You're all over.
So we are growing, yes.
Yeah, you're central, you're west, you're east.
Yes.
Nothing north? Chicago, Detroit?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
But probably definitely on the horizon.
Okay. What's the budget there? Annual budget?
The annual budget is $8 million.
Yeah. Okay. Now, some people might think, well, $8 million budget, why do they need pro bono? How come they couldn't pay for the help that they need?
So with nonprofits, we use most of that money to sort of support the mission, and it is difficult to be able to provide income for this level of professional services.
Yeah. You're getting roughly 80 hours of technical help, which several $100s an hour, I imagine,
Right.
if you had to go out and purchase it.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. All right, project management. Now, that seems like a pretty broad topic. Is there more we can say about strategies for project management, Steve?
I think the key there is just that collaboration and just trying to have regular scheduled meetings, and even having a regular format to that regular scheduled meeting. Like, we're going to start the meeting and we're going to look at the goal. Did we meet the goal? How long are we on the timeline? Other than that, there's not much else to say about the project management except that it shouldn't be an attack or like we didn't meet the deadline, or managing it that way, as much as trying to ensure the both sides are happy with the progress. But I'd say the other big key with that project management that isn't talked about enough is making sure that the nonprofit or the pro bono person is seeing their impact and seeing the progress that is being made and understanding how it is really helpful to the nonprofit. So the nonprofit has a responsibility to keep sharing back to that volunteer of how appreciative they are of the help and the outcome that it's going to do and what it's going to allow that nonprofit to do that maybe they couldn't do without that help. And just because the energy of a pro bono can fade over time, especially if a project is like 3 months or it's time. When they first start, they're excited, they're energetic, but then when they get into the weeds and then the problems start or they hit a hiccup, part of that project management is keeping that person engaged and excited and
reassured.
Yeah,
there's value and yes.
And there's a number of ways to do that of either through recognition or doing mini celebrations of me hitting a milestone or doing small thank yous as you go. I think that's a big part of that project management.
Okay, Princessa, you want to share what you're doing around sharing the value and encouraging the pro bono volunteers?
I don't think I've done anything specific, but I think what goes a long way is the fact that they can see that their work is being utilized and actually brings value to the organization.
Now, how do they see that? They don't see that during the project management phase, though. They don't see it until the project is finished, right?
But during the process, the fact that we're not coming back with a lot of changes, a lot of iterations, a lot of going over the time schedule and the time frame. I think it's sort of positive reinforcement to let them know that things are going smoothly and according to plan and will be seen through fruition.
Your work is appreciated.
Yes.
And I think the other thing that she's maybe downplaying a little bit is that she is able, Princessa did talk about how she was able to share that back up with her leadership team. And I know that the pro bono volunteers are seeing the fact that there's an investment from the leadership team, there's an engagement through the team, and their energy is staying up and excited about it, so that just, it plays into it. It doesn't have to be actually like a gift or anything like that. It's just that continued conversation.
Okay.
And I think as the volunteers get the exposure of understanding more and more of what your nonprofit does, they take away a real pride of what they've helped you achieve. Even if what they were building is, a small widget for your website, they are now kind of feeling a part of the team. And I love when I, ask employees who have done pro bono projects, hey, what kind of a project did you do? What was the organization? And they automatically become the spokesperson for the organization.
Right,
they tell you all about it. They light up. They're like, oh, and now I donate to them, or I just went and did a 5K run for them. And they're so much more engaged now than they were before, and they kind of feel like they have a real responsibility for that organization because they took on actual technical work for them.
That's wonderful. All right. Are we at project completion now? We have a couple minutes left together.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, what do we need to know? Okay. Are you anxious to get out of here, Erin?
Oh, no,
No,
I mean
okay.
the project.
She's like, I got to go somewhere.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Okay.
That chocolate milk is looking really good.
You're in the middle, so you can't leave until Steve or Princessa does. Okay, we're at project completion.
Yeah, so I think the big project completion to me then is where we ended our presentation was talking about connecting it back to the mission. So then, the outcome was we created this financial dashboard. But I think taking a minute there and just saying, yeah, you just created a financial dashboard, but now what you've done is you've eliminated hours of work that I was doing every week in a manual spreadsheet that now I can really spend time analyzing that data and actually change the way my organization works based on this data. And just taking time to celebrate that and connecting it back to the overall goal and inviting leadership maybe to come in and talk and thank the volunteers. That can be a real way to wrap up and close the project.
Yeah, that leadership touch again.
Yeah.
Valuable. Yeah. Erin, anything?
I think revisiting the project maybe 5-6 months out is also really important for the volunteers. Just to hear from you about, hey, for 6 months now we've been using these new dashboards and here's what we've seen that's happened at the organization. I had a pro bono project that some colleagues were working on a few years ago where they helped build a social media strategy for a nonprofit. And a year later, the nonprofit came back to them and said, hey, because of that strategy that you helped us build, we want a grant to get a full-time social media person on board.
Oh, that's magnificent.
And it's like,
Grand
those
slam.
are the amazing stories.
Right.
But had that nonprofit not gone back to the volunteers a year out and told them that, they would have never known. They would have just been happy about the project, but now they felt real pride.
Yeah, glee. Oh, that's
Yeah.
magnificent. Yeah. Princessa, is your project finished?
It is 1 week away from
Oh, my.
being done.
Okay.
The deliverables have been sent to us. The dashboards are set up. The reports are active, and it is now on me to actually play around with them and make sure that they're functioning properly. And any changes or anything like that, we would have to communicate back to the team. But we are pretty close to signing off on that, on
Okay.
that project.
Wow. This is an exciting time.
Yes.
Oh, it's cool. And what's planned for the to mark the occasion of the completion?
Oh, we hadn't thought of that far.
You only got a week left.
I know.
You better get the CEO on board. It's going to be something dramatic. Okay. All right. This is wonderful. Lots of great ideas. Are there any project management tools, online tools that you recommend, that you like? If not, you could say no. But
I think project management for me for this kind of a project, it depends on the severity or the scope of the project. But I think keeping it simple is key.
yeah, let's say scope, not severity.
Oh, severity, yeah.
Sounds like a disease.
Yeah, exactly.
Just lost a limb. Okay.
I think keeping the tool as simple as the project. So if it's something as simple as a Google Doc. Just having a quick outline there, keeping your meeting minutes there, keeping the record of what happened and what got done.
Okay.
You could do something more complicated than that, but I don't think it really needs to be anything more than that.
Okay. All right. Should we wrap it up there?
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. All right. Great ideas. Love it. And that was leveraging expert or technical volunteers with Steve Heye, solution consultant at NetSuite. Also Erin Dieterich, director of corporate citizenship at NetSuite. And Princess Bourelly, Director of Finance for Juma Ventures. Steve, Erin, Princessa, thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Real
you.
pleasure. Thank
It was
you.
fun.
It's Tony Martignetti, nonprofit radio coverage of 16 NTC, the Nonprofit Technology Conference. Thank you for being with us.